Thank you, Mataji, and welcome to all of you who are here today. Good to see so many faces. Many of you I know, and some of you I haven't seen for many, many years. So glad to see so many delightful faces. So this morning, well, one other word, let me thank again Mataji, as I did yesterday. Thank her for all of the work in putting this together. And also Lakshmi, our technical assistant, who has taken care of all of the many problems that have arisen, technical problems that have arisen in trying to get this together. So thanks to both of them for a lot of work. And my delight once again in being together with Swami Sarvapriyananda. So with that, this first session is, as Mataji said, it is full-on practice. That is how to practice the path of knowledge, the path of Advaita. As I explained yesterday, there is a distinction between the path of knowledge and Advaita. That is, as I said, if you have a Venn diagram of Advaita and Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge, they mostly intersect, but they don't quite they're not coterminous. They're not the same thing. So let me explain that today, as I speak, I'm going to be speaking of the Jnana Yoga of Advaita Vedanta. So I'm not going to be speaking of the Jnana Yoga of Sankhya or whatever else. I am speaking of Advaita, non-dualism, and the path of Jnana Yoga for arriving at that. And so that is the practice I'll be talking about today. There are many different practices in the field of Advaita, the Jnana Yoga, and I won't speak about all of them. I want to speak about some general practices which are helpful to all. I will begin with a practice which has been considered sort of a mainstream practice in the tradition of Advaita Vedanta for many centuries. In Hindi, it's called Shastra Charcha. Shastra Charcha. That is the discussion and study of the scriptures. This is a beginning practice, though for many it was considered the practice. There is an idea prevalent in some schools of Advaita Vedanta, who claim to be very traditional schools of Advaita Vedanta, that understanding the scriptures is the whole of the path. The scriptures say, "Thou art that, tat tvamasi," and once you've understood that, that is the end of the path. Understanding that. That's a rather radical position, though it has taken on some mainstream popularity. So I want to relativize that as a practice. It's not the end of the path. I don't see any way that by studying Shankaracharya, Gaudapara, certainly not Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda or Ramana Maharshi, one can arrive at the point where you believe that discussing and studying the scriptures is the whole of the path of Advaita. Advaita means not just understanding tat tvamasi, not just getting the idea correct and firmly, faithfully in the mind. It means the experience of non-duality itself, where, as Swami Vivekananda says, can you imagine that one day these walls, these buildings, your own body will all melt into the infinite, and only the infinite remains? That is realization. However, what is called Shastra Charcha, the discussion and study of the scriptures, is a very useful beginning of the path. Rather than describing it in the traditional terms, let me describe it in terms that are useful to us here and now as ordinary followers around the world of the path of non-dualism. The first stage on the path of Jnana Yoga is to understand the truth. That's why it's sometimes called by Swami Vivekananda himself and others the path of philosophy, because we begin with an understanding of what is Advaita, what does it mean, why or how can one conceive of everything being one non-dual whole, where there's no differentiation whatsoever. The Katha Upanishad says in several verses, Neha nanasti kinchana. It's a beautiful line. Neha nanasti kinchana. There is no differentiation here whatsoever. And yet everything is differentiated. So the beginning of the path of Jnana Yoga is to understand. We have a great advantage nowadays. It used to be in the olden times in India that one would have to go to a forest retreat, seek out some great sannyasi, and learn from this sannyasi by living with him, sometimes a her also, but most often a him, because of the way the tradition and society commingled. So one would have to go to a teacher and study the scriptures with them and learn it. And one had to show one's sincerity, and one's readiness to follow this path. Now, this information is at our doorstep. There are the many beautiful videos on YouTube, as most of you know, of Swami Sarvapriyananda. He's a YouTube phenomenon, as almost all of you and perhaps all of you know, and beautiful talks on various aspects of Advaita, of Jnana Yoga, and there are various books available, and so the resources are there. So now the beginning of the path is to make use of those resources and to understand. Yes, intellectually understand, conceptually understand the ideas. But that's only the first step. That's only the first step. Without that step, however, there's not a path. Unless we know what Advaita is and how it could be possible and where it is we want to go and how we're going to get there, then we don't have a path. So the beginning of the path is understanding. And that can be made a spiritual practice. That is, it's not just playing with ideas. Yes, one can spend their whole life playing with the ideas of Advaita, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's just that it doesn't take us any deeper. But take this step of understanding the path as a spiritual practice, as something that is leading me forward. I want to understand what it is and how it could be possible that everything here is an appearance of this non-dual reality. And what is the relationship of me to that reality? Of course, Advaita Vedanta says, Tattvamasi, you are that. And Tattvamasi is said to be the Upadesha Mohavakya, which means the great saying of instruction. The teacher tells the disciple, Tattvamasi. And when the disciple realizes the truth of it in direct experience, in the direct awareness of the fact that I am the infinite, then the disciple says, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. So Aham Brahmasmi is said to be the Anubhava Mohavakya, the great saying of experience. So there's the great saying of instruction and the great saying of experience resulting from that instruction. So the first step again is understanding the truth that we want to realize. And let me also say that traditionally it was believed that this should be heard orally. That is, it should be heard from the mouth of a teacher. And that is still important. Yes, we can read books and even hear YouTube videos where we're hearing a human voice, but it's not the same as having actual contact with the teacher. So learn however you can through books, through videos, and so forth, the idea and how it could be possible that Advaita is true. But then it's best if you can, at some point, learn from an actual living teacher. The whole Hindu tradition began as an oral tradition, and it's considered even now that the spoken word is more powerful than the written word. Yes, the written word is very good, and we can take use of it. But the transmission of an idea from one consciousness directly to another consciousness, and that happens through facilities like Zoom as well. But the transmission from one consciousness to another is more powerful than just reading passively about this truth. And so make use of all of the means that you have, and then come when you have the facility to a living teacher who can tell you the same truth that you have read and studied in the spoken word, consciousness to consciousness. And again, it can be through a facility like Zoom as well, where there's a living contact established through electronic means, through modern technology. So what is it that we want to gain through this understanding? Through this understanding, we want to come to a point where our understanding is clear enough so that we feel that, yes, now I understand. I don't yet see it, but now I understand. And I'm even beginning to feel it. I don't see it, but I'm beginning to feel it. Let me take a parallel from the path of devotion. If one begins to practice prayer, at first it feels like I'm just speaking into the darkness, as if I'm going into an empty room, a dark room, and talking into the dark room. There's nobody there, I'm just talking. So prayer in the beginning feels like that. But if we continue with prayer, a strange thing happens. We begin to feel that, yes, there is someone who is listening, that someone being God. There is someone who hears my prayers. I feel it. I don't see them. I haven't had a vision. I haven't had a verbal response. And yet I feel that I'm not speaking into the void. I'm speaking to a divine consciousness. There is someone at the other end. So again, that faith comes through prayer itself. So in the path of knowledge, I get this firm conviction. First I get this understanding, and then that understanding begins to go deeper. What we have to learn at this stage is how to make a concept a felt reality. How to make a concept a felt reality. I take the concept, as I spoke yesterday, of ways of getting an intuitive grasp of the ultimate. I take a concept like there is only one reality, a non-dual reality, or in simpler language, without all of the complexities of explanation, a unity of a reality, which appears as all of this diversity. So trying to feel that sense of unity. When I read, especially in someone like Swami Vivekananda, who emphasized this unceasingly, that every being is a manifestation of this non-dual reality. Let me try to feel it. Let me try to feel it. Let me try to, when I deal with others, let me try to remember, if I have become convinced that it's true, if I don't believe it's true, don't try it. But if I have come to the point that I'm convinced it's true, let me try to remember it at the time when I'm interacting with others. When I see someone, let me not think, oh, that's an awfully ugly face. No, how can I say that about the divine which is appearing? We can actually come to the point where we see beauty completely differently. We no longer perceive beauty as Hollywood beauty, but we see every human face as reflecting a spiritual beauty. We no longer see that, oh, this is a skinny person, that's a fat person, this is a handsome person, that's an ugly person. No, everyone begins to look beautiful. Because I've held on to this idea that everyone is a manifestation of the same divine non-dual reality. That reality is shining through the eyes of everyone. And I can begin to see, feel that it's true. I haven't yet realized it fully, as Swami Ashokananda did in the anecdote I related yesterday, where he suddenly saw the face of this cat wandering into his room, the face of the cat melting into a divine light. No, maybe I haven't yet seen that, but I begin to feel it. I understand that the I am that I experience, the sense that I am, that is an intuition of my divine nature, because the I am is a manifestation within the human mind of the silent I am, where there are no words. The I am becomes, just as when you have only one, the sense of oneness disappears. When only the I am exists, even the I am disappears, as Swami Vivekananda says in his beautiful hymn on Samadhi. Even the I am disappears because there's nothing to contrast with the I am. When there's only the I am, it becomes a silent reality. So I begin to feel that, yes, the I am is an intuition within my present experience of my divine reality. Let me hold on to that. Then the I am, I begin to feel really that my very presence is a reality in which everything else is appearing. So again, the first thing to do is to understand the ideas, to understand them well, to look at them from different angles, see it from different in different ways, different aspects of this truth. But then to try to take the concepts to the level of feeling. And the feeling, I don't mean anything sensory, nor do I feel anything sentimental, emotional. I mean feeling in the sense that I can feel that this is true. I don't yet see it, but I feel the truth of it. That again, as I explained yesterday, is what Swami Vivekananda called true faith. That is the intuitive grasp on the ultimate, as he called it. So learn to take these ideas and turn them into an almost perception, that is a feeling of their reality. For instance, you read something like the Ashtavakra Samhita, or you listen to a YouTube video teaching like of Swami Sarvapriyananda's videos teaching the Ashtavakra Samhita. And when you come to the different verses of the Ashtavakra, you try to feel, what would it be like to actually experience this? What would it be like if this was actually my experience? Where Ashtavakra tells things like, just as all different ornaments are made of gold, so everything here is made, all forms are made of pure consciousness. What would it be like to feel that? When you read about pure consciousness itself, what is pure consciousness? Try to get a sense of it. The realization is the final thing, but now we can begin to get a sense of it. This is what distinguishes the practitioner of Jnana Yoga who practices only at the level of concepts. That's extremely common. Just at the level of concepts. You get the concept and you stay there just with the concept and you're satisfied with the concept. No, we have to translate the concept into a sense of reality. The concept has to lead us to a sense of reality. So that leads us to another step in the process. Again, today what I'm trying to do in this session is to give a general sense of the progression in the path of Jnana Yoga. I'm not talking about the distinction between the seer and the seen and other specific practices, but the general process. Those other practices are wonderful and very important. But right now, what I want to do is to get a sense of the general progression, whatever it is that you practice. So first intellectual understanding, then you begin to get a feeling. And as you begin to get a feeling for these ideas, they begin to feel true. You feel, in spite of your experience of diversity, in spite of your experience of the body and mind, you begin to feel that, no, these ideas are true. And they're true enough now in my sense, in my feeling, that I can hold on to them. When it's just a concept, you find that it's there as long as you're thinking, and when you think about other things, it's gone. When it is transferred into a feeling of the sense that, yes, this is true, the feeling that it's true, then it begins to become something that continues in your experience, something that you can hold on to. So when you get there, there's another stage that you have arrived at that's extremely important. And this is a stage arrived at in all spiritual paths. And so all spiritual paths have spoken of it. In the Christian tradition, especially the Eastern Orthodox Christian tradition, it's called by the Greek term metanoia, which means a conversion, not a conversion like I was a Hindu and I convert to Christianity. No, not conversion like that at all. A conversion of life. In my life, I was going to the south, but now I'm going towards the north. The whole orientation of my life has changed. I was going towards the ordinary things of the world. Now I'm going towards the truth. That is metanoia, this conversion of life. Suddenly, because I can feel the truth of it, I'm going in the direction of that truth. In Mahayana Buddhism, they call the same thing bodhicitta. Bodhi, enlightenment, citta, mind, the mind of enlightenment. That is, it's a stage on the path in Mahayana Buddhism when you have really seriously entered the path. Now your mind is oriented towards enlightenment. You're not there, you haven't experienced it, but you're oriented towards it. Now you know that's where I'm going. And so in Vedanta, sometimes it's called nischayatmika buddhi. A little more difficult. We need to come up with a simpler phrase for it. And so sometimes it's called shraddha, faith. But that faith means nischayatmika buddhi, a Sanskrit phrase that sounds frightful, but the meaning is simple and clear. And the meaning is the conviction, which is a certitude. The state of, or the buddhi, the state of mind, the state of the higher mind, the state of the discriminating mind. So the state of the mind, which is certain of the truth. That is, you have gotten a taste for it. And now your mind is oriented towards it. And so this is the faith that Swami Vivekananda often praised, that was the faith of Nachiketa in the Katha Upanishad. This faith which changes our whole orientation in life. Nachiketa in the Upanishad, he goes to the home of death, Yama, the god of death, and asks him about what happens after death. And Yama tests him and finds that no, his faith is unshakable. Now Nachiketa is determined to find out what happens after death. Not in the sense of where do you go and what do you see, but in the sense of, is there anything that continues after death? And so then he begins to teach him. So that was when it says in the Upanishad, Shraddha Vivesha, faith entered into Nachiketa, which allowed him to go to the very house of death and demand to know, what is it that happens after death? Does one continue, or is that the end of everything? And then Yama, seeing that faith has entered into him, begins to teach him the truth of the Atman. A very beautiful Upanishad. And so this stage comes when you develop Shraddha. Now I not only have studied the philosophy and I can see how intellectually it could be true, but I've begun to feel it. I've begun to feel it. So each stage takes time. Allow it to take time. It doesn't matter. It's a great step in spiritual life when we come to the point where time does not matter, where now I know this is the truth, whether I realize it today or whether it takes 100 more lifetimes. Forget about my lifetimes, forget about the time, forget about centuries. This is true, and I'm going to stay with it. The strange thing is, as it's said in the Hindu tradition, that if we get to that point where I no longer care about, well, this is taking an awfully long time, I'm getting bored, it's taking too long, the spiritual process, when that is gone and I don't care about it anymore, however long it takes, I'm holding on to it, then it comes quickly. It comes quickly if you get to the point where time doesn't matter. Let it take 1,000 years, but I know this is true and I'm holding on to it. I've forgotten time as far as my spiritual life goes. Yes, I still have to pay attention to time in my daily life because daily life is ruled by the clock. But in my spiritual life, I've forgotten time. I'm holding on to the truth because I know that it's true. So again, we begin with study until we have understood. Then we try to feel the concepts. We try to feel the truth of what I have studied. Then I come to the point where I begin to feel it, and I develop this faith, this nishchoyatmika buddhi, this conviction that this is true, and this is what I want. And then from that stage, it's just a question of holding on to the truth until I come to it, until I realize it. One of the great things about the path of Jnana Yoga, the path of Advaita, non-dualism, is that it's extremely simple. It says that all you have to do is to know the truth. It's not about rituals, it's not about mythology, it's not about austerities or anything else. It's knowing the truth. But that's also its difficulty. That's also its difficulty. That's the beauty of it, but it's also the difficulty. Difficulty because we all want a recipe. Well, let me do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and let me say some fixed prayers and do some ritual, draw some geometric diagrams, breathe through the left nostril and exhale through the right nostril, and I'm liberated. We want a recipe, a process. But Vedanta says all you need to do is to know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, as Jesus says. Know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And Vedanta says that is absolutely true, absolutely true. So understanding the concepts, feeling the concepts, getting faith, and then holding on to the truth, trying as much as you can, when you can, to apply this truth, to compare the truth that you have accepted, that you've understood, you've accepted because you've understood it. Compare your actions and reactions to the truth. Now, if I really believe this is true, why do I do like this? I shouldn't do like that. That's a process. It takes time. You have to be patient with yourself, not get frustrated with yourself, and not think I'm so far in my behavior from the truth that I'll never get there. Well, no, don't discourage yourself like that. Just to know that the more I can hold on to the truth, the more the rest of my life will fall into line with it. Swami Vivekananda has the beautiful saying that truth, and this is a paraphrase, but it's a close paraphrase. I shall compare truth to a corrosive substance that will burn its way through whatever it lands upon. Through hard stone, it may take longer. Through a soft and delicate substance, it may burn its way through faster, but burn its way through it will. That is the secret of Jnana Yoga, and it can be applied in the other yogas as well. But the secret of Jnana Yoga is that whatever you have come to be convinced is true, you can never completely forget. So that's why sometimes it's said jokingly, don't enter into the path of Jnana Yoga unless you want it to ruin your life forever, because you can't go back. Once you have accepted, once you have understood the truth, you can never forget it because you know it's true. You can try to forget it. You can say, well, I'd rather do other things. Yes, go ahead, go do other things. But in the back of your mind, there'll be this voice saying, but that's not true. That's not true. That doesn't solve the problem of life. That doesn't solve, the truth is over here. The truth is over here. And it will always be pulling you back in that direction. That sometimes it may be inconvenient when we want to get away from the truth, but it's a blessed irritation. It's the most blessed of all irritations, that it keeps telling us, no, you can't get away from this because you know now that it's true. So we hold on to the truth, and we hold on to it until we realize it. So let me summarize what I have said. There are the three stages in Advaita practice taught from the Upanishads themselves. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, one of the early ancient Upanishads, and continued to the present day as the essence of Advaita Vedanta practice, Jnana Yoga practice. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Shravana means hearing. So nowadays, well, no, let me start differently. In olden times, it was a purely oral tradition. So you didn't read the texts at all. They weren't written down to be read. They were spoken from teacher to disciple. So first was Shravana, hearing the truth. Nowadays, we can read, we can watch YouTube, and we can go to lectures, and we can go to a teacher. All of these things we can use, and all of them are good. All of them should be made use of. But so Shravana means first learning the truth, finding out through books, through lectures, through a teacher, hearing what the truth is. If no one tells you that the Atman is the sole reality, and that the Atman, you who are the Atman, that you are the infinite reality, if no one tells you that, nothing in life is going to show you that. Everything in life says quite differently, is quite counterintuitive at first, until you begin to see how it works. So first is Shravana. Then comes Manana, thinking deeply about it. You've heard the truth, so thinking about it, and that is where you begin to feel the reality of it. You think about it enough so that it not only makes intellectual sense, it begins to make perceptual sense. Not that you see it, but that you feel it. There's a response here. Oh, you can't see my chest on the video, so there's a response here in the heart. You begin to feel that this is true. So that is what comes through manana, through thinking about it, thinking about what you've learned until these concepts become felt realities. And then comes nididhyasana, where you hold on to these truths until they lead you to realization. So before I open up for questions, let me just mention a few of the traditional practices which are used in order to, at this stage of nididhyasana, ways of meditating on this truth. One that's taught from the time of the Upanishads through the Bhagavad Gita and up to the modern time is the meditation on Om. Om as a symbol of the reality itself, the non-dual reality. Om is the first vibration in reality, the first manifestation from the transcendent reality. Om is the first unstruck sound, anahata dhvani. To make a sound, two things have to strike, like that, or air hitting the vocal cords. All sound is made by something striking. But the anahata dhvani comes from the non-dual state when there's no other to strike. It's the first primordial vibration which is set up without being struck. And everything has come out of that. And so by meditating on Om, it has the power to lead us back to that. Meditating on Soham, I am that, or I am he, or I am that. And if one is a devotee of the Divine Mother, but following non-dualism, the non-dualism of the devotion to the Divine Mother, Shakta Advaita, the Advaita of the Shakta tradition, one can repeat Saham, I am she. I am he or I am she. Both say the same. Soham or saham. So meditating on that, meditating on one's identity, and there are different ways of doing that. Drigdrishya viveka, following the process of I see the world, I'm the seer of the world, it's the object, and I am the subject who sees. I see the body also, so I'm the subject who sees the body. I'm not the body, I'm the one who perceives it. I perceive the mind as well. I'm not the mind because I can perceive it as an object. Whatever I see as an object is not me. And so you hold on to that idea, which everyone here can understand. Everyone with a functioning mind can understand it. It's not hard to understand. It's just different from the way we're used to thinking. So it takes a little time to get accustomed to it, but you can understand it easily. And you come to this knowledge that I am the unperceived perceiver. Anything that can be objectified is not me. I am that which can never be objectified, but I can know myself through identity because I'm self-luminous, like the sun. The sun illuminates everything, but it illuminates itself as well. You don't need a flashlight to see the sun. It illuminates everything, but it's self-luminous. It illuminates itself as well. And so this true self is unobjectifiable, but it's self-luminous. It illuminates its own presence. Your sense, I am. Whenever you have the sense, and it's always there, but whenever it comes to your consciousness, the sense, I am, that is the ultimate truth radiating within you. It's that which comes down into the mind and speech as I am. And so you know that you are. You're aware of your own existence. So you are self-luminous. You see everything else. You can't be seen as an object, but you can be seen as the subject. That is, you're not seen as a subject. You can be known as a subject because you're self-luminous. So taking a practice like Drigdrishya Viveka, you hold on to that idea. You take up the practice of the Sakshi, the witnessing consciousness, that I am consciousness, and being the subject, eternal subject, I witness everything as object. It's not me. This morning, I wake up and I feel sad. No, immediately I stop and say, no, I don't feel sad. I see that there's a wave of sadness in the mind because I'm the light which illuminates the presence of sadness in the mind, but sadness is in the mind. That's not me because I can feel sadness. It's an object. I'm sick today. Yes, I may say that, continue to say that to explain things to other people, but inside I should know I'm not sick. I see that there's sickness within the body. I, the light of pure consciousness, perceive sickness within the body. So you hold on to that sense of being the witness. So whether it's through mantra like Om or Soham, or whether it's through Drigdrishya Viveka, that is discrimination between the seer, that which I am, and everything which is objective. That's another way of practicing neti, not this, not this. Whatever I can think of, whatever I can objectify, whatever I can perceive, that's not me. I am that which is left over when everything objectifiable has been pushed away. And one practices neti with a very subtle, it's not physical, but I'm demonstrating it physically, a subtle push against everything else, a push against all objectivity. That is, you push with the will, you push with your awareness, you try to push away all objectivity as a practice. It takes time. It's not that you give a push and suddenly you realize the Atman. No. If it were that easy, that would be wonderful, but it's not that easy. So you keep doing that. You keep doing that. And there are other practices as well. Let me just finish and then open to questions with Swami Vivekananda's, well, I have to mention two things very briefly. One is Ramana Maharshi's Who Am I?, which is a wonderful practice. I won't go into it because there's not time now. Who am I? And then there's Swami Vivekananda's practice of affirming the fact that I am the self. Affirming the fact that I am the self. At first, that seems like, well, that doesn't do anything. Affirming that I'm the self, I don't experience it, I don't know it. But no, it has a wonderful efficacy. If you can grasp the idea that I am the self, and you can keep affirming in everything. When I feel weak, no, why should I feel weakness? I am the infinite self itself. Where is weakness in me? When I feel fear, no, what am I afraid of? I'm the infinite self itself. Let me call up my courage. When I can't face a situation, no, why can I not face the situation? I will. I have that strength within me because I am the infinite self. You may say there's a contradiction there because I'm using that to face circumstances here in the world, but it's true and it's effective. Just this affirmation of the fact that I am the infinite, and I hold on to that. I begin to get a feeling for it. It begins to bring a new strength to me where I can face down all obstacles. I can face whatever comes to me. So that is another practice which you can get from Swami Vivekananda. His writings are like a tremendous fire. When you read them, you catch fire from his teachings, especially if you read his California lectures. It's pervasive in his California lectures, this idea of affirming that I am the self. So let me stop here and open for questions.
Swami, how do we see the divine in an evil person?
Yes, that's an eternal question, an obvious question, and a good question. By obvious, I don't mean a dumb question. It's a very good question and a necessary question. That first by understanding. As Swami Vivekananda said, I love Swami Vivekananda's radical statements because he had a want of making radical statements to shake up his audience. So he said in California that the murderer who is going to be hung in your country tomorrow is perfect God, perfect God. Yes, we can understand that the murderer has become a murderer because the murderer is not aware of his own divine nature, nor of the divine nature of others. It's ignorance. Yes, it may cause great harm to other people, certainly, and society has a right to protect itself from those who would commit such horrible crimes. Yes, all of that is true. But at the same time, I should not forget that the murderer is a murderer because of ignorance. The murderer is me. The thief is me. Everyone is me, but just ignorance of who they are. The great German thinker Goethe, he said that I have within me, speaking for everyone, I have within me the capacity of all good and all evil that are found in humanity. That is, whatever I see in humanity, from the Hitlers and Stalins and Pol Pots up to the Saint Francis's of Assisi and Saint Teresa's of Avila and the Ramakrishnas, all of them are within me. I have the capacity for all of that. And so in the murderer, let me not forget that the murderer also is the same as me, perfect God, the Atman, but ignorant, and therefore thinking that by murdering, I'm going to get what I want. No, you don't.
Swami, we're running short of time. I'm thinking we can maybe prolong this question and answer session by 5 minutes, if that's okay with you.
Sure, with me.
A question comes about how can we practice the meditations such as Soham combined with our japa, our initiation mantra. Can they be done one after the other or at different times? This question is coming because one is a non-dual meditation and the other is not necessarily non-dual.
Yes. So let me say that I mentioned Soham just because it's something that some people practice. But if you have a mantra, I don't advise doing the mantra sometimes and doing Soham at other times. There are, with the mantra, there are many non-dual practices that can be combined with the mantra practice. But I don't recommend meditating on Om instead of your mantra or Soham instead of your mantra. Those are just two examples of practices. Your mantra can be used by the same person during the course of the same meditation session. It can be used devotionally, and it can also be used non-dually. Ramana Maharshi, great Advaitin, a great realized soul, you find that in his teachings he talks often about japa, and he says that you are japa, your true nature is japa. Now that doesn't make intellectual sense, because japa is om, 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 om. How could that be me? But no, the idea of japa can be used devotionally, again, in the same meditation session. You can use it devotionally as an offering of yourself to the Ishta, and you can use it as identity, that the Ishta, the mantra is the Ishta, and the Ishta is Brahman. The Ishta is a form coming out of Brahman. And so through the Ishta mantra, I can first use it as a prayer and worship of the Ishta and meditation on the Ishta. And then I can keep repeating it and thinking that I myself am dissolving into the mantra, which takes me through the Ishta into Brahman. That when I dissolve myself into the vibration of the Ishta, the body and mind are nothing but vibrations. So let these vibrations be dissolved into the vibration of the mantra, and the mantra carries me to its source, which is Brahman. So rather than doing the mantra sam and soham or om sam, I would recommend doing something like that. And other practices like witnessing, trying to see everything as a manifestation of Brahman, the non-dual reality, that can be done along with, it doesn't conflict with the mantra.
Swami, when I think, who am I? Who is actually thinking?
Yes, when I think, who am I? It's the mind which is thinking, who am I? But there's, as I said briefly yesterday, one of the distinctions between Vedanta and Buddhism, and I don't say this to put Buddhism down because it's a great tradition, but it is a great richness in the Vedanta tradition that we have. That is that everything is a manifestation of Brahman. Everything is a manifestation of Brahman. As Sri Ramakrishna said, the pure mind, the pure buddhi, and the pure self, Atman, are the same. When the mind and the buddhi become pure, they go back to their source, which is the self. And so when I'm thinking I am, I'm trying to hold on to that I am, I'm doing that with my mind. But that's not a problem, because I'm using the mind to go back to the source of the mind. And so I start with what I have. Right now, I have the mind which I can use. It's an instrument in my hands that I can use. And so I use it to hold on to the sense of I am. And that takes me to the reality of I am, which is beyond the mind, beyond the buddhi, which is the reality itself. So don't get hung up on the idea that what I'm using is just a mental, but I want to go beyond the mind. Right now, all you have is the mind to use. But the sense of I am, which is the reality filtered into the mind, that will take you to the reality itself.
Swami, what is the best book to practice Shakta non-dualism?
Shakta non-dualism, a good question. And I'm not a good person to ask about that because I don't know. I've practiced my own form of Shakta Advaita, and I don't have a book. So I don't, I'm sure if I thought about it and looked through some resources, I could find something, but nothing comes to mind right now. I'm sorry for that. Except for Swami Vivekananda, if you read what he says and his poems to the Divine Mother.
Swami, if unity is the real truth, why is it so challenging to realize it?
Yes, that's the great question. That's the great question. It is the real truth, and it's challenging because we have ignored it so long. Everything in life is habit. Everything in the universe is habit. Even the laws of physics are habit. The universe behaves according to the laws of physics only because of habit. As Sri Ramakrishna said, the laws of physics are not, or the laws of science are not really laws. There's not a law keeper who makes sure that everybody behaves according to him. It's just habit. I see the world as I see it only because of habit. But habits are very difficult to overcome because I have it for this life and many lifetimes before. And the whole world is full of people having the same habits. So overcoming habit is the secret of spiritual life.
Swami, can you give us a little bit of explanation about trying to see God in everyone and also using discrimination? For example, if we're trying to see God in everyone, are we to do whatever they wish? So please give us some kind of...
Yes, so the last part first, no, you should not do everything everyone wishes. That's not seeing God in everyone. As Sri Ramakrishna said, and this is the whole answer to your question, but I'll expand on it just a little bit. He said, the tiger is God also, but you can't embrace the tiger. So you recognize the tiger as God from a distance. He also said that there are some people who are troublemakers, and all they do is create trouble. And so with people like that, you salute them from a distance, but you don't go near them. You avoid their company because you know that they are troublemakers and it's just going to cause heartache. So you salute them from a distance. You recognize that this also is perfect God, but I'm not going to get involved with them. So you do yourself no good, and you don't even do good to the other by allowing yourself to be a doormat to the world, by allowing yourself to be abused and used by others. In the path of Advaita, part of it is developing a sense of inner dignity and a sense of inner integrity that I am the luminous self. And that becomes so strong that you can't allow anyone to abuse you because you have such a sense of inner dignity.
Swami, this last question, even after understanding the concept of Advaita, why with the death of a loved one we receive so much sorrow?
That is natural. Accept it, and by accepting it, I am not saying deal with it. As the modern idiom has it, oh, deal with it, just to get over it. No, I don't mean that. Accept it. It's going to be there because your life was entwined with their life, with any loved one, and when they're gone, the only thing to recognize is that my sadness is with me. It's not for the other person because the other person has gone on further on their path, and they're going into new adventures, new experiences, where all of the past is being left behind. But I'm sad because I missed them. I loved them. The cost of love is the pain at separation. That's the cost of love. But it's better to love than to be a stick of wood. So don't regret that you love someone and now you feel sad for them. Allow yourself to feel sad, but know that your sadness is because you miss them. There's no sadness for the other person because they are moving forward.